I walked on campus this morning, there was like nobody here. I thought for a minute I missed something, but I think it was cold and nobody wanted to get up, right? I don't blame you all. I don't blame anyone for that. But I hope everyone had a nice weekend. Yeah, is it okay? That's right. My one of my children's teams got slaughtered 11-0, which was awful. I felt so bad. It's so hard to stay positive when like it's like goal after goal. But the other team 2-2. Like, ooh, we were so close. We scored our first goals. So one really good game, one really bad game. So we'll see. Hopefully next weekend's even better. But I wanted to talk about this. I wrote it up here on the board, and I want to just take a couple of minutes to talk about the first exam. So it's coming up. If you've been looking at the syllabus, our first exam is a week from today. So it's on Monday. The exams will be on Canvas. So before COVID, I gave them in person, just like normal, and you'd use a Scantron and no notes or anything, and just take it in here. But for at least this semester, I'm still doing them on Canvas just to help with anxiety as we're all kind of easing back still into that. So there's really no reason you all shouldn't do fantastically on this test. I haven't made it any harder than I would have had I given it to you in person. So it's not like artificially difficult or anything. But what will happen is on Monday, we won't have class in person. Right? So what I'm doing is I'm giving you the hour and 15 minutes that we would normally have to take the test in person to take it online. Okay, so at this time, I know you're at least free from 8:30 to 9:45. So you can take it at that time. If you'd rather take it later in the day and like have a little extra time to sleep in or do whatever, that's totally fine. What's going to happen is the exam will open up at 12:01 a.m. on Monday, and it will close at 11:59 p.m. Monday night. So you can take it anytime on Monday from basically midnight in the morning all the way to midnight at night, but it will close at 11:59 p.m. So if you haven't taken it by that point, it will be too late. So you can use this time if you have 75 minutes to take the test. So you could use the time that you have for our class, or again, if you'd rather wait and take it at night or in the afternoon or later, that's totally up to you. Just make sure you don't miss the deadline. Okay. So for the exam, what will happen if you're on Canvas, if you click on modules, I have given you a study guide for the first exam. And so what I do is I make the test and then I go through and make the study guide. So the study guide is basically every term or concept that you need to know. And I tend to be a very, if you haven't taken a class or a test with me, I feel like my exams are probably too easy. If anything, I shouldn't tell you that because I don't want you to under-prepare. But what I mean by that is they're very straightforward. And if you've been studying, if you've been reading, you've been here, you'll do fine. Especially with this, you can use your notes, you can use your book. But the study guide is everything that you need to know. So you'll need to know all these terms from chapter 1, 2, 4, 5, and then 6. So notice not chapter 3, we haven't done that one yet, but 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. So if it's on here, expect to see it on the exam. If it's not on here, it won't be on the exam. So you don't need to know it if it's not on this page. This is plenty. This is enough. So don't worry about anything that's not on here. There's also 2 diagrams that are on here. These are the exact diagrams that are on the test. So make sure that you are able to label all of these structures before. You might go through and do that ahead of time because you'll be doing some matching on the exam to label these as well. So if it were me, and I've always been like a really meticulous, like straight A student who overdoes it for everything. But so just put that out there. But for me, what I would do is I would go through and I would write or type out every term that's on this list. And I would have it in front of me during the exam. And so what that means is if you're taking the test and you don't know the answer to something, you're not flipping through the textbook, flipping through the PowerPoints, flipping through the lecture notes, trying to find it. If you have everything like written out or typed out in front of you, you can just reference it right there. I would still study and prepare like you would for a normal test. If you're trying to look up every answer, you will run out of time. It's not enough time to be looking stuff up, maybe 1 or 2, but there's about 70 something questions on the exam and you have 75 minutes. So it's basically 1 minute per question. But a lot of them, there are several true false questions. Those should be really fast. And again, most of them are very straightforward. But if it were me, I would do that. It's better to over prepare for the first exam. And then you could dial it back next time, but you don't want to have that moment halfway through the test where you're like, I really should have done more. And there's nothing you can do at that point. So I would write all this out, type it all out, use Quizlet, do something to study. Everything again on here will be on the test. It's mainly multiple choice, true, false, and matching, but there are a few short answer questions at the end. Never essays or anything like that, but it might be, listing some things or comparing things. What are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, things like that, that I give you like tips on as we were going through. But nothing, there'll be no trick questions. Everything should be really straightforward. I want you all to do really well. So as long as you've prepared and studied and you're ready to go, you should be in really, really good shape. So if I go back for a minute here, the study guide, so you can prepare, is right here under modules. So here's study guide 1, and then here's 2 and 3 are up here as well. And for the exam, if you click on quizzes, wish I could change it to exams because quizzes sounds like it's something different, but quizzes, exam number 1 is right here. And again, it will open up at 12 a.m. and close at 11:59 p.m. So this is where you'll go to take the exam. And when you click on it, it'll give you a couple of things up here. It's 75 minutes, 73 questions, 100 points, right? So again, this will open up on Monday. So we won't, I'll remind you on Wednesday, but we won't actually meet in person. I will be here. So if you have questions or run into issues, you can come find me. I'll be in my office, but we won't actually have class. Are there any questions about the exam? Feeling nervous, feeling okay? Right. Tired? I got a thumbs up. I'll take a thumbs up. Thanks, Francis. Right. Any questions at all? If you think of any on Wednesday, feel free to ask. But again, as long as you prepare and study and you're organized, you should do fine. Make sure you obviously have good internet. Don't wait till like 11 o'clock at night to take the test. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. Have a good internet connection wherever you're taking it, a quiet place to take it, all the things that would set you up for success. And again, as long as you're prepared, you should be in really good shape. All right. So I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about that before I forgot. Otherwise, what we'll do today is we're going to move on to male sexual anatomy. So we spent a good day and a half, almost 2 days talking about female anatomy. Now we'll talk about male sexual anatomy, internal and external structures, sperm production, and all of those processes that tend to be important to cover here. This bigger. So again, we'll start with some of the external anatomy, then move to internal anatomy, just like we did with the female reproductive system. And then kind of a side diagram here. This will be really helpful for you with that picture that was on the study guide, right? So make sure again that you can fill in all of those images where each of these structures are. We'll talk about most of these different structures today as we go through. But I told you it was coming today, and I hope you had a chance to think about it. I did ask my father-in-law about slang for penis at dinner, and he looked absolutely disgusted with me. It was a great moment. He's all like, why are you even asking me that? I'm like, I ask you every year. I thought you'd be prepared. Like, no. He wasn't very happy with me. But I want to give you a couple of minutes. So find a few people around you, just whatever's convenient, like 2, 3, 4 people, and see if you can come up with as many slang terms for penis as you can. I expect a good sized list for this one, right? I give you some warnings. So let's go. You got this. But write it down so you can share it. I'll give you a few minutes and then we'll go from there. Make sure you write them down. Yeah. Sorry. Oh. Yeah. So that works. Maybe just another minute or two. Well, so just another minute, just like another minute. Yeah. So good. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, John. I don't think it's something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, everyone. I still hear people like slow down. So let's go ahead and stop there. I was gonna make a joke about the length of the lists given the topic, but I'll leave it. I'll leave it. But anybody want to share their list already? Yeah.
You can say I'll do something. Pickle, lemon, eggplant, funeral, shaft, wood, wind, fire hose, love muscle. One-eyed trouser snake, throat cigar, or sword, skin flute, ritual, 1 millimeter heater.
Thank you. Thank you. Want to read this? Don't worry about if there's overlaps. Let's do it. Sure. Go for it.
Snake, twig and berries, heat, slinky, long, slim, berry dispenser, for little guy, simple little helper, cucumber, weenie, winter, thick, you don't like it.
All right. Second little helper. Right. It's all that. Thank you. You want to read yours? Because I thought you had good sex. Don't worry if there's overlaps.
Dog, rocket, eggplant, anaconda, banana, oyster, sausage / skin flute, donkey kong, willy, my personal favorite, folk sword, shaft, trouser snake, fiddler stick, nature sun, branch, wood, and wood.
Awesome. Very nice. Great. Anybody else? I don't want to rob you of your chance to share your beautiful list. So that was a pretty good amount of terms that we got. Again, so much slang, right? So many opportunities for slang for anatomy. We'll look at some of the proper terms today, right? We're starting with the external anatomy. But anybody else? Just double checking. I feel pretty confident in those lists. Those were good lists, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about some of the external structures, and then we'll move to the internal ones. And I think this is a really helpful overview image. So we're going to start with the external anatomy and then talk a lot about the process of sperm production and how those internal structures and glands play a role in that. So if we look at the main male sexual organ, but that would be the penis, right? So we could say that's the main male sexual organ. Right, and it has quite a bit of different tissues within it, right? So remember when we were talking about arousal and any kind of being turned on, right? Because of all these nerve endings and blood vessels, the same is true with the penis. So quite a few different spongy bodies, cavernous bodies, blood vessels, and so on that are located within this. So when we look at the penis, we have the glands, the shaft, the root, and the foreskin. So kind of a couple of different elements of the main male structure of anatomy. There's also a bit of this that extends inward, right? So most of the penis is an external organ, but there is some part of it that goes into the pelvic region, and it's attached with these things that are called crura. And as a side note, crura is Latin for leg, right? And so it's thought to be like a leg or like a muscle or a tendon that connects in a very strong way to the pelvic muscles in the pelvic area to allow for the different processes of ejaculation and erection that we'll talk about later. But again, quite a bit of cavernous bodies, spongy tissue. The glands, we could put, or some of them up here and not others, right? The glands, we could say, is the head of the penis. Right, so the glands would be this whole area here, right? And then we have the shaft of the penis and then the root of the penis that extends inward again with this crura, there's strong muscles and tendons into the pelvic region. But the shaft is kind of the main part of the penis containing all of those cavernous bodies and spongy bodies. These are going to be what fill up with blood and allow an erection to occur when a man is aroused or turned on. So these cavernous bodies, they will fill with blood during any kind of arousal or intercourse. The spongy body is the same thing, kind of forming the bulk of the shape and length of the penis. And then the root and the crura is the part that kind of attaches to the pelvic region. It goes inward into the body. The whole thing covered with foreskin. Foreskin is the part that would be removed if a man was, oh my gosh, what did I just circumcised? I forgot the word for a moment there. If a man is circumcised, the foreskin is the part that would be cut back and removed. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But it's a very intensely dense with all sorts of skin and mucous membranes, right? So it actually plays a big part in arousal, which is one of the reasons that circumcising men tends to be so controversial, because it can, in theory, diminish somebody's ability to become aroused. Now, hard to prove that, but it is something that sometimes people argue against when they're talking about, would you circumcise a little boy or not? Traditionally, something that's done almost immediately after birth. Probably one of the more odd pictures, but I think that it is helpful for kind of seeing these different structures here. But the corona, we talked about this in that little quiz that I gave you. If somebody asks you to point to your corona, right, you have to be careful, right? Are they asking it for the beer, or are they asking for the rim or crown of the head of the penis? So this stands for rim or crown. So it's this kind of area right here. So it's this base right here of the head of the penis, right? Standing for rim or crown, tending to be a very sensitive region, most dense in those nerve endings, along with the frenulum, which is this the strip of skin that connects the glands to the shaft. These two regions together, the corona and the frenulum, are probably the two most sensitive regions of the penis, right? The female equivalent would obviously be the clitoris. Remember, they start out as the same, and then depending on the genetic messages that we receive and the hormonal influences that we receive, they start to specialize and kind of refine themselves into the various structures for men or for women. Now, the one other thing, we have a couple other things here. There's a urethral opening right here, right? This would be where urine passes from the body for men. We have the urethral opening in women as well. The foreskin, right, we talked a little bit about. And then, and this other like very odd picture going on over here, right? Such a strange picture, but again, trying to give you that perspective, I suppose. The scrotum and the testes. So the scrotum encloses the testes. The testes or the testicles, right, another way of saying that, plays a really big role in producing sperm and hormones. And interesting about like the scrotum is a very like temperature sensitive part of male anatomy. And so there's all these jokes about like, oh, it's cold outside, so somebody's penis or scrotum like shrinking up to the body and looking smaller. There's a lot of truth to that. Because it plays a really big role in sperm production, it has to stay at an optimal temperature range. And so when it's really cold outside or really cold, the scrotum will actually shrink up closer to the man's body to maintain that warmth, right? And when it's really hot, it will kind of drop down away from the body to try and cool off. So having to stay in a very optimal region in order to make sure that sperm production occurs and occurs properly, there is some truth to that whole, like it's cold outside and so everything appearing very like small versus larger, right? So staying either closer to the body for warmth or farther away from the body to try and cool down to maintain that optimal temperature. And I didn't write anything here for foreskin. What can I write up here for that? We can say a skin mucous membrane. And it plays a really big role in arousal and sensitivity, which again makes it a little bit controversial to remove this or kind of cut it back in order to circumcise a little boy. So just like with women and the vulva, there's an incredible amount of variety in the size, shape, color, amount of hair, right, with men and their penis presentation. So I have some images for you of that as well. I feel like I'm a little too close to it here. Like I need to back up. Right, but a bunch of different images for you. And again, dangerous to do a Google search, but some circumcised and some uncircumcised. And we'll talk about that more next class. But just like with women and with the vulva, right, no two are the same, right? Same thing that you could say from a urologist to many gynecologists interviewed, an incredible amount of variety from, again, size to circumcision or not, to hair or not, straight versus curved, an incredible amount of variety. So looking at some of the more like internal structures, right, we have a whole process that we are going to talk a lot about called spermatogenesis. And I'll erase this here in a second and write that up on the board. But within the testes and the scrotum, right, that we just talked about a moment ago, this is where all of the production of sperm takes place. And just like with women who are constantly going through a menstrual cycle, having an egg be fertilized, or I'm sorry, matured every month to go travel down to potentially be fertilized, men are constantly producing sperm, and they produce an incredible amount of sperm. Women produce 1 egg per month, or a mature 1 egg per month. Men produce millions of sperm a day, right? So we got like a quality versus quantity difference there. But I have a little video that kind of introduces this process. I think it's a nice little quick overview. And then we'll talk about the different structures involved and the different glands that are involved. So let me put that on here for you. See that before we talk about each one of these structures. Okay. Bless you. So this process that we're going to talk about here is called spermatogenesis, right? And all that is just the production of sperm. Now, this is quite a process. It involves a bunch of different structures, a bunch of different glands, and it takes a very long time, kind of surprisingly long amount of time. Right? So from a sperm to be produced all the way to the point of being mature, it takes an average of 64 to 72 days. Right? So this process of spermatogenesis, 64 to 72 days on average, from the point of a sperm being produced to allowing it to mature to the point where it's ready to be potentially released from a man's body. So a very long process, again, with a lot of things going on. It takes about 50 days for the sperm to develop. And then another, on average, 14 days to mature. So again, not a quick process, right? Just like eggs take some time to mature to be released, sperm takes some time to be produced as well. But an incredible amount of sperm are produced in a man's body. A lot of them. I don't know if any of you remember how many million per day. Did anyone remember about how many million sperm a day a man produces? It's a lot. 20, keep going, like way up, 300 million a day. 300 million per day is the amount of sperm that men produce. 300 million, that's a lot of sperm. But again, just because they're being produced doesn't mean that they're ready to be used. It takes some time for them to mature, to develop, and so on. So again, a lot of different processes going on here. The seminiferous tubules play a really big role in this production, right? So the seminiferous tubules are these thin little coiled structures in the testes or in the testicles, which again are housed within the scrotum, in which sperm are produced. And so let me see if I can go back here for a minute. Right. Seminal vesicles, seminiferous tubules. Where are they not on this one? So we have the seminal vesicles right here, right? So right here are these little structures right at the very back kind of on the backside here that are where they are produced. So I was looking for a better picture than this one right here. But you can see the spermatic cords here and all these different structures, but these tubules are the thin little long coil. They show you those to you really well in the video, in which sperm are actually produced. So this is where they start that process of production. And then the epididymis is a structure at the backside of each of the testicles or each of the testes. And that is where the sperm basically sit to mature, right? So that 14 days or so, takes 50 days in the seminiferous tubules, and then about 14 days in the epididymis where they just sit and mature and wait to be released. Now, with any kind of sufficient stimulation, right, we're going to have a process of erection and then ejaculation occurring. And we'll talk about those steps a little bit more in a minute. But the mature sperm, once they've sat in that epididymis and become fully mature, then what happens is they travel from the epididymis through the vas deferens. And the vas deferens is basically a sperm carrying tube, right? As it says right here, it's a sperm carrying tube that begins at the testicle and ends at the urethra. And so this is where the sperm are going to travel through. It's about 18 inches long. It's all coiled up, right? And very, very small, but about 18 inches in total. And sperm will drain into here and travel through here, eventually going through a bunch of different processes that we're still going to talk about, and ending at the urethral opening where they would leave the penis. Now, the seminal vesicles, there's a bunch of different things that happen. We have sperm that are produced, but they have to get like the seminal fluid in order to be able to leave the body. There's a lot of fluid that the sperm are sitting in, which gives it energy, and it gives it sugars that it needs to make the long swim or journey to find an egg. Also different substances that help to neutralize the vaginal canal, because it's a hostile place for sperm. A lot of sperm enter the vaginal canal, not very many make it. Only about 1 out of the millions of sperm that go into the vaginal canal during intercourse or any kind of ejaculation, only 1 will fertilize an egg, if any, right? So it's definitely not a great odds game for sperm, right, if you will. But the seminal vesicles are these small little glands that are next to the vas deferens, and they secrete a really alkaline fluid. And this alkaline fluid consists of the greatest portion of seminal fluid that is released during ejaculation. So what we see here is this fluid that's produced in the seminal vesicles plays a really big role in kind of neutralizing the very acidic environment of the vagina to help the sperm have a better chance at survival. So once the sperm enter into the vaginal canal, a lot of them can't handle that acidic environment and actually die off very quickly. But the fluid that they're sitting in that's produced by the seminal vesicle helps to give them a better chance of swimming up through the vaginal canal, up into the fallopian tubes to hopefully find an egg. Just like with menstruation, the whole process here is helping, it's really geared toward a man being able to fertilize an egg. Just like every month, a woman is being geared up to get pregnant, right? Our bodies are very much designed with that in mind. Yeah. Say that you have to do with
copper.
So copper IUDs within, they basically make the vaginal environment very unfriendly for sperm. So a lot of them die off. Some of them not as common anymore because they have hormones. Some of them have hormones that they release that make the lining of the uterus very thin, which also makes it very difficult for implantation to occur. But yeah, it's part of it is they kind of make that environment very difficult for sperm to travel through, making it less likely that they make it beyond that to do anything. Not helping at all with STIs, but helping quite a bit to lower your chances of becoming pregnant. Any other questions or comments or thoughts or anything for now? A couple more things that are part of this here. So the seminal vesicles, right, which we were just talking about here on the last slide at the bottom, secrete about 70% of that seminal fluid. Right. So again, that fluid gives them a very much a stronger chance. It gives a lot of nutrition and mobility to the sperm. It's got a lot of like sugars in it to give them that energy that they need in order to make that long swim. It is a very long swim from the vaginal canal all the way up into the fallopian tubes. And so that seminal fluid does a really good job of kind of helping the sperm to have a chance to do that. They also pass through 2 other glands that play a role in this process. That liquid mixture, right, that we get from the seminal vesicle then goes through all of these different glands on its way out. The prostate gland makes up the other 30%. And this is what gives it that kind of milky white fluid look that seminal fluid has. So the prostate gland produces this milky white fluid that again helps to prolong the life of the sperm and give them a better chance of making it up to fertilize an egg. Yeah.
When people are worried about like the color of their sperm and they think that
Or of their seminal fluid, right? Yeah. Mhm.
fertile, is it the seminal fluid that's being injured in a way that can make it not protect the sperm so that they'll have a harder time getting someone pregnant?
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. So what it tends to be more than the fluid, right? Because the fluid is just what gives them kind of the energy and it helps to neutralize some of the things in the female reproductive system. What would make a man less likely to be able to impregnate someone is the quality of the sperm itself. So we have the sperm that gets added to the seminal fluid. So for example, just to kind of add to that, right? If a man has had a vasectomy, right? So they've had like the tubes tied off, right? The seminal vesicles and all these tubes. If I go back here, right? Those seminiferous tubules and seminal vesicles, what happens is the vas deferens becomes severed or tied off. And so the sperm are still being produced, but they don't make it into the seminal fluid. So a man who's had a vasectomy will still ejaculate like a very like milky seminal fluid from the prostate gland and the Cowper's gland, but there's no sperm in it, which is why they can't then impregnate like a woman or an egg. And so what happens, right, is the sperm can have low quality or low mobility, or maybe it didn't mature properly. So more than the fluid, it's the sperm itself that would affect a man's ability to be fertile or infertile. And that's one of the most common reasons that men struggle with fertility is the quality of their sperm. Right? So women, it can be the quality and the number of their eggs. Men, it can be the quality and number of their sperm. Maybe they have low sperm production or the quality of them is just poor, they're not mature enough to be fertilized. Yeah. It can be both. It can be a little bit genetic, but a lot of it is environmental, right? Diet, health, and factors that we don't necessarily understand. There's a lot of infertility in our culture. It's getting worse and worse and worse. It's very common that couples trying to get pregnant, it's becoming more common that they need a little bit of assistance, whether that's making sure that the sperm quality is good or the egg quality is good, or just finding ways to get the two of them to meet up together. So we're seeing an increase in that, which would mean that it's somewhat environmental, but it can be somewhat genetic as well. It's a little bit of both. So the prostate gland gives it that milky white fluid appearance. And then the Cowper's gland, one other gland that plays a role here, is going to produce a pre-ejaculate that lubricates the urethra, kind of flushing it out and cleaning it out to make way for the seminal fluid to come out. Right, so that pre-ejaculate is going to clear out that urethral opening, making way for an ejaculation to occur in all of these substances, the seminal fluid, the sperm itself, and all of that to leave a man's body. Now, the Cowper's gland in this pre-ejaculate can contain sperm, right? So the whole idea of like that pre-ejaculate or pre-cum not being something that can get you pregnant, you all knew that. I didn't even need to have you write that down on that sexual intelligence test, right? You all knew that right off the bat. You can get pregnant or have sperm released before a man actually ejaculates, right? So it's a much smaller amount, but it's definitely possible. So throughout this whole process, right, so we have this 50 days of developing, maturing, right, in that epididymis, and then the release from the epididymis, I'll go back 1 second here, going through the tubules until they reach the point of the epididymis where they're stored. And then we're going to have the vas deferens where they leave the epididymis, they go through all these different vesicles and glands, picking up all these different fluids and fructoses and sugars and things to help neutralize the vaginal canal. And then eventually, when a man becomes stimulated enough, this seminal fluid will leave the body through ejaculation. Okay, so quite the process, right? And when a man ejaculates, a couple of random facts for you here. And I learned some random things last time I taught this class here that I just went ahead and we'll talk about and add here. A typical male ejaculate is about a teaspoon in size, right? So about the size of a teaspoon. It has that milky white appearance thanks to the different glands that we just talked about. Typical male ejaculate containing 200 to 500 million sperm. So a lot of sperm being released every time a man ejaculates. And again, of all of these sperm that leave the body, about, so we said 200 to 500 million, right? About 200 or so of them will survive to reach the egg. So of the 200 to 500 million, only about 200 sperm will actually survive the swim all the way up the vaginal canal, through the uterus, through the fallopian tubes to reach the egg. And then one fertilizes the egg. And the rest are just kind of absorbed and broken down within the body. And remember that process takes about 5 to 7 days. So it's a long journey that those sperm have to make. And to help with that, they have trace amounts of proteins and carbs and sugars and acids in that seminal fluid in order to allow them to have the energy to make that journey. Yeah. Yeah. So 5 to 7 days from when sperm enters a woman's body to swim all the way up and reach the egg and fertile can take up to 5 to 7 days. And then that egg has to travel all the way down the fallopian tube and implant into the uterine wall for pregnancy to occur. So there's a lot of different steps, which we'll talk more about when we get to the unit on pregnancy. A couple other things here, and somebody asked me this 2 years ago, how many calories are in the typical male ejaculate? It is very calorie friendly, only 5 to 7 calories in the average male ejaculate. Somebody also asked me if you can be allergic to this, right? And you can be. It's very uncommon, but you definitely can. There are some women who are allergic to the ejaculate that is released by a man. Typically, though, that has to do more with what the man puts into his body than the sperm and the ejaculate itself. So just like with women, what a man puts into his body can alter and affect the taste and appearance of their seminal fluid and their sperm. If they're eating a lot of very bitter, unhealthy things, drinking a lot of alcohol, using a lot of substances, it can cause very like alkaline and bitter seminal fluid. A lot of like sugary foods and juices and things like that, it can make it very sweet. So the things that a man puts into his body can definitely affect the taste and appearance of male ejaculate. Yeah.
Would it like give them an allergic reaction?
Not necessarily, right? So I won't say no, it's not impossible, but they'd have to be violently allergic, and that partner would have had to eat an incredible amount because the body is just breaking all of that down in so many different ways. But you can actually have an allergy to seminal fluid. It is very, very rare, but it's definitely possible. So just as men have tried to use the pickup line that seminal fluid can whiten your teeth, that's not true, by the way. Women can use the line that I'm allergic to your male ejaculate. So there's one on each side, right? But as a side note, somebody asked me that last time. I always share these random facts with you. No, it does not have teeth whitening properties. If somebody tells you that they're trying very hard. It has very, very minimal amount of calories. It is carb friendly. Somebody asked me that too. I don't know. But it is something that, you know, you can have a reaction to and can be very much altered by the things that a man puts into his body. Okay? Same with women, right? Women do ejaculate, right? It's not as common. We didn't talk about that so much, but women can actually produce like a little bit of like a substance in an ejaculate as well, right? And it can also be affected by the things that they put into their body. So if anyone is engaging in oral sex, for example, you know, these things are things that you might notice, right? Depending on the diet and health of the person that you're engaging in that behavior with. Yeah.
With twins, it's when multiple sperm, right?
There's a couple of options, right? So yeah.
Is that the reason that it's like it could be genetic for your family to have lots of pairs of twins? Is because it's the genetics of like your sperm? I don't know.
Sure. So twins does tend to run in families sometimes, and it also tends to be way more common in people who engage in any kind of fertility method, right? Because the assisted fertility methods by nature, oftentimes either cause a woman to develop more than one egg. And so with sperm fertilizing an egg, it can happen in a couple of different ways. So if there's more than one egg, then what can happen is two different sperm fertilize two different eggs, right? And then you get what are called fraternal twins. They're not the same egg or the same sperm, but they develop together in the womb. My daughters are fraternal twins. They look nothing alike. They're nothing alike at all. They were two separate eggs, two separate amniotic sacs, two separate sperm. Or what you can have happen is one sperm fertilizing one egg, right? And you can get them developing together, and then you get identical twins where they share a sac together and they're genetically identical, right? And so what they would both be women or both be men, versus fraternal twins, you can have one and one, right? So really interesting how that can happen. You can obviously have more than two as well. There have been people who've had up to like 8 at a time, but traditionally twins is way more common than like triplets or quadruplets or octuplets or whatever we can end up with. I can't even imagine 8. I can tell you twins was overwhelming. 8, I don't know if I would have lived. I barely lived through twins, right? I taught the wrong class one day. I was so sleep deprived. They didn't sleep forever. It was intense, right? But because we went through assisted reproductive methods, right, we had more eggs. And so it was just likely. The doctor, when he put 3 in, and he's like, if you end up with 3, we have to reduce to 2, because 3, the more you have, the more dangerous. Any other random questions or thoughts here? I always learn something new on this when it comes to sperm. I've learned a lot of random facts about sperm over the years, but any other questions or thoughts or comments or anything here? I have a little review activity here in a moment for this. I have one more slide and then we'll talk about that. So all of that process, right? We just talked about all of those different things occurring, right? And then if a man becomes stimulated enough, right, or aroused enough, they will get an erection, like kind of 2 different things going on here, an erection and an ejaculation, right? And then we also have emission and expulsion, 2 phases of this, all E words, interestingly. But erection is the process where the penis engorges with blood. So when a man becomes aroused, all of those cavernous and spongy bodies and blood vessels within the shaft of the penis become filled up with blood, right? And that causes the penis to become erect, right? Or hard, or like more firm, right? This is coordinated by the autonomic nervous system. In some ways, it's a little bit of like a spinal reflex, right? And sometimes this can happen for men when they don't want it to, right? Oftentimes men, especially during puberty, will get erections without necessarily wanting to. And it can be very embarrassing, obviously, but it's something that sometimes is a little bit beyond their control, at least initially. And then they can learn to control that a little bit better later. They might also wake up with an erection, right? But having a dream that turned them on in some way. There's a lot of kind of automatic things that are going on here. But an expansion of the arteries in the penis filling up with blood, causing that erection to occur. And then again, with sufficient stimulation, right, whether that's through intercourse or manual stimulation or otherwise, they will then go through the process of ejaculating, which was mentioned a few times in the process where semen and that seminal fluid is expelled out of the penis. And it happens in 2 phases, emission and expulsion. Emission is the phase where it all kind of builds up together, right? So all of the seminal fluid is gathering and building, and then expulsion is when it leaves the body. So there's all these different things going on. This is quite a process. Again, days and days and days, lots of glands, lots of different parts of anatomy. Then you become stimulated enough to get an erection, right? And then enough stimulation to cause an ejaculation. It builds up and then leaves the body through the process of expulsion. So I have a little kind of review activity for you for this. And this is going to be a participation for one, but I also brought some candy. So whoever gets it right first, or maybe second, right, or third, I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably run out of candy. Whoever gets this right first as a group, I will come by and give you some candy. It's 9:30 almost. It's not too early. I've already had some. Right? It's not too early at all. So what I'm going to do, I want you to get into groups of like 2 to 3 people, right? I'm trying to keep it small. That gives you a better chance to be more actively involved. And I'm going to give you a sheet here, and it says the life of a sperm cell. Okay, and it's a review of this whole process that we just talked about. So what I have here are a bunch of different things, A through H, of different steps that happen as sperm is produced, all the way to the point where it leaves the body and travels up into, assuming that it's traveling up into a woman's system. So what I want you to do is you don't have to write the sentences, but you'll write the letters in order down here. And then make sure you write your names on here somewhere as well. So as soon as you have a group of like 2 to 3 people, send someone up to grab one of these. Go ahead and get started. As soon as you think you have it, raise your hand. I'll come around and check it. And we'll just go until everybody has it figured out. So I'll leave these right here. As soon as you have a group of 2 to 3, come grab one and go ahead and get started.
Okay, if we do a group of 4.
Yeah, that's fine. So again, you just need to write the letters, not the sentence. Oh my gosh.
That's just we have.
You got it? Okay.
That's it? All right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
All right. We have one group that got it. Very nice. Yeah, okay, come. No. Okay. All right. Yes, the ones you are right. So I'll give you another minute to finish and then I'll put up a couple of groups that got it. Correct. Yeah. Oh, I didn't check after that.
Yeah. You have, you right? It's the middle. It's the middle. Yeah. I can't draw it. It's all. Yeah. Okay. All right, like one more minute, and we'll talk about it together. Thank you. All right. So. Where's my other group that got it?
Wait.
Get it?
Not even.
Oh, you're so close. So I can collect those from you.
Ropes.
Got it? Yeah. Okay, you got the print in there. I'm sorry. So make sure you get your name on it, and I'll get your. Did she have one? Oh, I should have said. I'm not going to give you the answer. All right, do I have everyone's sheets? Okay, so here's the answer. Look how cute these little guys look. Don't they look so happy and cute? Like, I thought they were so, like, they looked so happy. All right, so here's the answer. And some of you got this really, really quickly, and others, the middle kind of gets tricky. A lot of you had C and B and then HAD, and the middle got a little messed up. So if we look at this whole process, right? I am produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testicles. I mature in the epididymis. Most of you got that. When there's adequate stimulation and the penis becomes erect, I leave the epididymis and travel up into the body through the vas deferens toward the bladder and the ejaculatory ducts. As I pass through the seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland, fluids are added so that I can live longer and swim more easily. I am now officially the substance we call semen. The urethra carries me, along with about 200 to 500 million other sperm, out of the penis in a process called ejaculation. I go through the cervix and the uterus and into the fallopian tubes in search of an egg cell. If I can find the ovum before the other sperm do, I will be the winner, part of a fertilized egg. All right, so just a quick review, and I have enough candy that if you didn't get any and you want some before you leave, you can still have some. Right? I don't want you to be sad and not have candy in your life. I read earlier this year that there was going to be a candy shortage for Halloween this year because of, all the shortages that we have. That hasn't been my experience. I went and bought all this candy just in case, and I've seen candy everywhere, right? I was all stressed. It's like, there's not going to be enough candy for Halloween. I was like, forget hoarding toilet paper. I've been like hoarding candy, right? There's been plenty of it. Everywhere I go, there's more than, yeah. No, I never do that. I know a lot of people do that and then they save it. That just seems weird to me. I don't know. I just buy a ton of it and then eat it
all the way through September and October. And then I usually bring it after that and share it with my students. My kids eat it all. Yeah, we eat a lot of candy in our house. There's always candy. Always. I'm sure that's not super shocking at all. There's always candy in my office too. Anyway, I think a really good little review, right, for remembering this. So definitely ask you a bunch of questions about this, but the things that we talked about, you know, a good little review here. All right. No, oh, go back. Go ahead. I was gonna get it. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's all right. I don't need pictures of me with sperm, right? Yeah, go for it if you want to take a picture of it. They're so happy. They look like the happiest sperm ever. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at this. Actually, I have a clip that I want to show you with this, and I think it's going to take us like right up to the end. And I hate to do that because we don't have time to talk about it. So I think what I'll do is I'll stop here. And then next class, we'll talk a little bit about penis size, circumcision, and some of the pros and cons of circumcision, a little bit about male genital health concerns. I have the male equivalent, the private dicks video for you to look forward to or dread, depending on your thoughts on that. So what I'll do, I'll stop here. I'll leave this up in case you wanted to take a picture of it. If you have any questions at all about the exam, I'll hang out for a few minutes. If you didn't get candy or not, son, I will leave it right here. Otherwise, I will see you all on Wednesday and we'll finish up the rest of chapter 6. Now you can get a good picture. You're welcome. Are they those the caramel ones, right? They're so. I mean, I've had my fair share. Thank you again for the video. Sorry, I didn't have their phone number anymore. It looked like it sounds like they maybe they went out of business during COVID. I tried to give them a call and they it just was disconnected. Yeah, of course.
They were like talking and we had a board meeting and they were like, we really need someone. I was like, give me a moment.
Yeah. I might have a point of contact. Yeah. Good luck. Bye. What's up?